Hello guys, welcome back to Mark Shrimp Tanks. In today's video we are going to be covering the day in the life of a shrimp keeper, right? And this is going to be more of a relaxed video, hence why I'm taking my glasses off. And we're going to cover what I've been doing over the last few weeks to months in my absence from YouTube. Yeah, I know I've made the odd video now and again, but you're going to see the culmination of what happens when you don't do certain things to tanks, the revelation that I've come to see that when you don't do certain things to tanks, certain other things happen. It'll all make sense once I tell you as well. But just put it this way, water changes are definitely overrated. Don't put too many plants in your tank because you'll miss one vital ingredient that shrimp require just to survive. Right, this will make sense once you see it as well. I've seen big improvements in my baby shrimp production once I've started to, I was going to say do these things, but not do these things is probably the more apt word, right? So we're going to talk about things like that as well. I'm going to show you the tanks, obviously, and yeah, let's just take it from there. Guys, before we go any further though, I think it's important that we cover some stuff to do with the issues that I've had with YouTube over the past year or two, and I'm just going to come out and say certain things because there comes a time, guys, when you hold too much back in and it becomes a negative thing in your life, right? That's one thing that we all don't need, is negativity in our life, right? And there's certain things in YouTube that were starting to, starting to bug me and just eat away at me a little bit, and yeah, it was starting to affect the way my mind was thinking and whatever else. And guys, at the end of the day, I started doing YouTube because it gave me something to do, and then it became more of like a chore, and yeah, that's not what I ever wanted YouTube to become a chore. Churning out videos for the sake of churning out videos. So I've went back more to a relaxed way of doing it where I take my time, basically. If my camera's charged, then I might make a video, right? And it seems to be better this way for me, right? So it's what is this? It's not a mental health thing. It's just there's no need to make extreme. There's no need to go to extremes to try and churn out content. Is basically what I'm saying when it's not really required. Anywho, right, so basically what I'm saying, guys, right, as you'll see, this is going to be a much more relaxed video than normal. What I'm trying to tell you guys is enjoy your life, take it a little bit more relaxed, enjoy the important things in life, right? If you're stressed over work and whatever else, make sure you have a hobby that you can actually go to and enjoy, because when you get to the point where you feel like you're just doing something for the sake of doing something, then there's maybe no point in doing that something after all, right? And that's how I was getting with aquariums and shrimp keeping and stuff. And it wasn't because of the actual shrimp keeping, it was because of YouTube, right? I felt like I was more or less being forced into making videos. Guys, I know you'll be sitting there. Some of you are like trolls and stuff, be saying, Mark, nobody forced you to do anything, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know, I get that, right? But there's a thing that comes with doing YouTube that once you seek success, you want more success, right? And it's kind of like a gambling thing. And sometimes when you see other people's content that is kind of subpar, and because of certain elements they get millions and millions of views, it kind of becomes really pointless doing YouTube if you're doing it to help people, if that makes sense. I'm not going to go into names or anything like that, right? But there's one certain YouTuber. It's not MT Fish Tanks, by the way. I love you, MD, if you're watching. It's not MD Fish Tanks, right? But it's someone else where they literally have 2 or 3 tanks and they're able to churn out videos and get millions of views. And I'm like, what do I need to do here? Do I need to paint my nails to make me have a female's voice, or I don't get it. I just don't get it. Anyway, I don't want to go way off on that tangent because yeah, some people will say I'm not politically correct. Well, It is what it is. So right, so from then on I've decided, yeah, I'm not going to try so hard with YouTube because there's just no point. I could make the best video in the world, guys, and it get 2,000 views. This other person, this fictional person, right, they could make, I don't know, a 60-second short video and get 150 million views. I'm making the same content. I could make the same content frame by frame and not get the same views, which is just, in my opinion, it's just wrong. Right, so some people seem to have, I don't know, YouTube seems to prefer certain people for some reason, which is just odd. So I'm going back to doing YouTube as a relaxed hobby, which probably it should have been in the first place. You know, me just making enough money to actually pay for the shrimp room. But by the way, guys, nowadays it's probably barely even paying for itself, because you guys all know this cost of living crisis that apparently there is, even though oil prices are low, and electricity prices are very high, and they keep blaming other things for it, and you see food prices soaring, and yes, it's greed. That's all it is. Greedy people, greedy shops, greedy oil companies, just wanting more and more of your cash, right? So it affected my shrimp room as well. No longer really pays for itself doing YouTube. So yeah, I've decided to take a back seat with YouTube. As I said, I'm not giving up on YouTube. There might come a point when I want to do it more full time again than I currently am. I mean, guys, like making 1 or 2 videos a week instead of making one every month or whatever. I'm more comfortable making one every month because it just, I like to make one video when I feel like it, kind of thing. Guys, you have to remember as well, I am actually disabled, right? So it is sometimes just very, very hard for me to actually physically make videos. But you guys all know that already. So there's that as well, right? We've talked about that. I want to talk about something else and what it's brought, all that stuff previously, and the realizations that it's brought to me in my shrimp room. Right, I became not lazier in my shrimp room, right, but I had a second interest. My second interest was my website. You guys, it's all about shrimp as well, so it's all connected. Right, I am more or less desperate to take away all the knowledge I have about shrimp keeping, and I'm desperate to try and get as much of it off YouTube as possible and put it onto my own website that I control myself. Right, I control everything about the website myself. That's where YouTube controls my YouTube channel. And it's all to do with payments and whatever else. They take a lot, guys. Some of you won't know this, but I think YouTube takes probably 40% of any money earned from my channel, which is an awful lot considering a lot of you guys will still use YouTube and you're not paying for it at all. Half the money I earn. So for me, it could be a couple of $100 a month. To them, for nothing, you're using the same YouTube channel as me, and you're not paying anything. So how does that work? I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, maybe I should come off that rant about YouTube a little bit. So it's led to a realization that I prefer doing things on my own website than I do on YouTube. It will probably never properly replace YouTube. I'll still do YouTube, but you see the direction I'm going to go, guys. I'm trying to diversify the things that I do, because you guys already know I have YouTube, I have Facebook, and I have my own blog now. It's 3 things. That's enough for me. When you start going over this into like Reddit and Twitter and Instagram, for example, it starts to become a little bit too much stuff. I mean, I literally, guys, I'll get hundreds of comments a day, people asking me questions, and most of the time, right, I'll flick through them and I'll see if someone desperately needs help, like the shrimp are like dying, like all the tanks kaput and whatever. I'll try and help them, but I skim my inbox on my emails just because I get so many emails, and it's literally, guys, like hundreds of comments a day, and it gets a little bit monotonous. I've done this thing on YouTube for what, 7 or 8 years, something like that, and I've always tried to answer every single question on YouTube as well, which unfortunately I've had to stop doing as well, just for myself as well, guys, for my own mental health. Right, I can't be that into YouTube as much as I was, right? Because some of you guys won't know this, but when you get to a certain level on YouTube, you get a lot of messages, a lot of comments, right? And if you really want to grow your channel, you should answer these comments and messages all the time. That's how you grow your channel, basically, right? And it was becoming too much for me to do as one person that is a disabled man doing all this stuff. And yeah, I've decided to diversify myself a little bit more, take a back seat on the comments, because that was one of the things that was taking up a lot of my time. The other thing was, guys, this will be a big one as well, is I've decided not to go on Twitter anymore, because it used to take up hours of my time just sitting there scrolling through, reading all the comments about football, anything else, politics, the lot, just scrolling through hours after hours. So in the last 2 weeks, I've taken myself off of Twitter, and I have so much more time. It's very tempting to go back on and see what people are saying, but do you need it? No. You really, really don't need it. So I know I went off on a huge tangent there, right, but it's leading me back to the same thing again, right? I've diversified myself a little bit more. What it's meant is my shrimp room here, in the meantime, because it's not going to be a permanent thing, in the meantime, has seen me a little bit less than it normally would. I don't mean like I still come in here every day, I check my tanks every day, but I'm not so hands-on in the tanks, doing stuff constantly like I was before. And the benefit I've seen from doing this, guys, is obviously I have more time, and I'm noticing in some tanks I actually have more baby shrimp, it's specifically my saltwater tanks. So that was something I was exploring all this time when I was taking this little break from YouTube, was what happens if I did this to my tank? What happens if I did that to my tank? And yeah, I'm definitely seeing a difference in some tanks where I don't do this one thing so much. And guys, I'm just going to tell you what it is. I don't clean the tanks as much as I used to. For example, some of these tanks like this here, I think I did ironically, I did a water change in these tanks yesterday. Right, but before that, it's probably been months, 2 months, 3 months, something like that. So most of my soft water bee shrimp tanks that have an active soil, I haven't been doing water changes as heavily as I was. And the benefit of it is I'm seeing a lot of algae and biofilm on the glass. Right, and as a result of that, guys, I'm seeing way, way, way more baby shrimp. And so currently I have baby shrimp in that tank there. Let me see, I always have Opae Ula baby shrimp all the time. This tank's been redone. I'm going to go over these tanks with you just quickly as well, because not a lot has changed in the tanks themselves, but we have more baby shrimp. This tank here is just going berserk with baby shrimp, this one here. You're probably sick of seeing it. I've been redoing tanks as well. I've decided to go down a certain route with my bee shrimp tanks, where I'm going for a thicker soil instead of the thinner soil, because I think the thinner soil, it just runs its course too fast. And if you're like me, where you like to take it a little bit more relaxed, a thicker soil is probably better. And if you're doing less water changes, guys, right, because the thing that we've always talked about that's been the hindrance with the active soils is doing too many water changes reduces the lifespan of the soil. And then the pain in the ass part, where you have to actually physically redo the tank, and if you're going to do it this way with so many water changes, like every second week, you actually physically have to remove all the soil within a certain time frame. And nowadays, guys, it's like 10 months, 12 months, something like that. If you're doing your tank properly, like you're meant to do, 25% water changes, blah, blah, blah. Tank looks fantastic. But it's too much for me to do it that way. My wife was recently telling me that I probably should consider downscaling my stuff, because it was getting just that little bit too much for me. And not doing so many water changes and getting this little added benefit of seeing all this extra biofilm and algae in the glass has been really beneficial for the tanks. And it's shown me that we don't need to do as many water changes in our saltwater tanks or under Neocaridina tanks as we think that we do. Right, because guys, I wouldn't be lying, right, if I said to you that I'd gotten to the point where I wasn't doing water changes probably every 2 or 3 months now. Right, so I have a reverse osmosis system over here, double DI with it, My tubs are up there, you guys have seen them a million times. I put a little bit of safe in the water just to be doubly sure, because sometimes you can have chloramines, for example, that can get through a reverse osmosis system, and it can even get past the DI resin. I have double on here and it can still get past, right? So I like to use a little bit of Seacom Safe just as a, what would you call it? You never have too many backups, can you, for safety? So yeah, it's another safety. Since I've been doing this, as I said, we have more and more baby shrimp. Some of my tanks were at the point, guys, where I had like 2 shrimp left in a tank, and I became lazy, concentrated on my blog. Come back, there's babies in the tank. Right, so yeah, that is the direction that we have been heading in. I have something else in the back of my mind, guys, that is really, really exciting for me, that I've been talking about for years. I'm not going to tell you in this video what it is exactly yet, but there's something on the horizon that will be coming pretty soon that is really exciting for me as a shrimp keeper. Really exciting. Right, by the way, because I talked to you there, guys, about possibly, my wife said to me maybe I should cut back on the shrimp tanks because maybe they were getting too much for me. The way I was before, it was getting too much for me, like 25% water changes in every tank. Because, guys, like basically the way it is with me right now, and the way it's been with my back for years, is I could lift a bucket of water and my back could go kaput just like that, and that is me finished physically for doing anything for a couple of days. Sometimes it can last a week, sometimes it puts me in hospital. Like last year, for example, I think I was in hospital twice with slipped discs in my back, and I don't want to tell you this all the time, but that is the reality of someone that has a back condition where they have multiple dead discs in the back. I have 4 in my back that are dead, basically, or dehydrated. It depends on your terminology, what way you want to look at. On an MRI scan, they're basically black. They look dead because they're so dehydrated. And I have one in my neck which has fixed itself, thank God. Because this one was annoying. These ones in the back were painful. The one in my neck was annoying because, guys, out in my neck I used to go like this, turn it, and I just hear crunching of the bones in my neck constantly all the time. Thank God it has fixed itself, right? But the ones in my lower back specifically can't be operated on. So me doing these larger water changes constantly, and the way that, you know, when you really get into shrimp keeping, you think, oh, the water must be mega clean, we must do this and blah, blah, blah. I think we go too overboard with this stuff because the soil's cleaning it, your filtration's cleaning it, you have plants in the tank that clean your water constantly. Right, the thing that kills your shrimp, guys, is you adding too much food to the tank. That is it. The more food you put in, the more overfeeding you do, to be specific, is what kills your shrimp. I talked about this in a recent post. We did a video on this the last time, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Too much feeding is the thing that kills your shrimp. Probably too much water changes is the other thing because it reduces the lifespan of your tanks. I've done a few mistakes over the couple of months as well with tanks up the back here and stuff. I'll show you all this in a minute, where I tried to adjust the general hardness of the tank by adding crushed coral to an active soil, and it was just a big mistake, guys, because you start to try and adjust the tank with shrimp in it and you start to get death after death after death. I also, guys, have had in the time since my little hiatus from YouTube, I know I've done a couple of videos, but I've not properly been on YouTube. I've had Hydra multiple times, and I've had Planaria really bad in the big tank up here. I had it so bad that it killed most of the shrimp in the tank, and this happened roughly about the time that I started doing my website, so I was on my website more. You guys all know how bad my vision can be. Right, so I was coming into the shrimp room, just glancing at the tank, making sure everything was all right, and then I was coming to this tank, and there was the odd dead shrimp in it every other day, so I was removing the shrimp. And then I came in one day, right, and a shrimp had just molted, right, so I came over here and I grabbed my glasses so I could see that the shrimp was okay and whatever else. And when I was looking at the shrimp, guys, I saw like these little, like, it's hard to describe what they were, little blobs on the actual shrimp itself. Right, and then I realised what they were, and I got the net, and as I netted the shrimp, by this time, the time I saw it, past it. It was planaria, and it was a lot of them, and they were balling up because they were feeding on the shrimp. Right, and then I decided to treat the tank. I treated the tank 3 times over here, and I treated it. I got Hydra at the same time as well. I'm not sure where it came from because I did get a load of shrimp from my friend Peter for the stop tank here, but I had Hydra and stuff in the middle tank, and it came out of nowhere. I don't think I've even bought shrimp this year, guys. So I had Hydra and planaria before Peter gave me all those shrimp. Remember where I put 500 shrimp into this tank? All gone. All those shrimp are gone. And the planaria were horrific. I've never seen so many planaria in that tank, in a tank in my life. Right, and this is the thing where we were talking about before, where I was doing less and less stuff in the shrimp room, so I wasn't maybe looking hard enough at the tanks, and yeah, I somehow missed seeing all these planaria in that tank, and yeah, all the shrimp are gone, unfortunately. And it is kind of upsetting. I mean, there is some shrimp still in there. There's like 10 shrimp or something, but there was like, we put in like 500, and there was already a lot of shrimp in there already. So lessons have been learned. I'm going to try and not adjust tanks with issues already. One of the issues, guys, I'm not sure if I mentioned this as well. This was an issue that I'd had where I've always used zeolite in my tanks, right, but I never used a lot of zeolite in my tanks, right. And so again, this top tank again, maybe I put a little bit too much zeolite in the tank because, yeah, zeolite is, it absorbs things in the tank, right, and it will absorb calcium as well. So there was one of the days I came in here and I was just checking, because it was after I had treated for planaria and whatever else. I was checking the water parameters, because I was checking for things like ammonia. I wanted to see if there's going to be an ammonia spike after me dosing no planaria to kill the planaria. But I was checking everything else as well. And I checked the general hardness of the water, and I was shocked, guys. It said 1. The general hardness was 1. And I checked some of my other tanks. Some of the tanks that had a lot of zeolite in, also the general hardness had been affected. Now, I've used, as I said, I've used a zeolite for years, and I'd never noticed this problem with it before. So it's probably always been there, where if you add too much zeolite to a tank, it's going to affect your general hardness. Like nowadays, I still have a zeolite in some of these tanks, but it's the odd piece. I didn't know that it actually absorbed stuff to the extent that it's going to swing your general hardness, because that is quite a big thing. That if it can change the general hardness in a tank, you're probably going to see issues in the tank. So I decided that I was going to try and remedy this thing by adding oyster shells, right? And it did work. It did actually work. But at the same time, the oyster shells were also raising my carbonate hardness in the tank. And from that point on, I was having like a snowball effect of, yeah, this is just getting out of control here, where any tank that I had added oyster shells to the tank, I was seeing a raise in carbonate hardness, and I was seeing a raise in the pH, which is an issue in a soft water tank, right? So then you start to see issues with, ammonium that was no longer, that used to be not lethal to shrimp aquatic life, suddenly becomes ammonia, and then you start seeing dead shrimp everywhere. So it's a lesson learned, and it's a hard one that I've had to learn. And the reason I'm telling you guys this as well, because I wouldn't like to say use zeolite and then you have the same issues as me, and then you try and fix it, and then you have the snowball effect of, it's something that just can't be fixed unless you remove everything that you've added to the tank and hope that the tank can recover. So I've been on a little bit of a journey the last couple of months, learning some stuff about myself, YouTube, doing my blog and whatever else. I seem to be really happy about me doing my blog stuff because I can work on it at my own pace. I'm going off on a tangent again here. I can go and work on it on my own pace, and I can improve my website after iteration, just make it that little bit better. And yeah, I'm really happy doing that. And yeah, what I'm basically saying, guys, is when you get distracted by stuff, you tend to make more mistakes. I've been very distracted by my website, so I've tended to not see so many things in my shrimp room. So as I said, some things are good, some things are bad. I thought I'd tell you about the bad things as well as the good. Not so many water changes, loads of biofilm production. I see loads of babies. Yeah, and that has been basically my life in the shrimp room this past few weeks. Now, another thing you guys are probably will start to notice is I'm going to start to do away with all my small tanks. I can't see any point in them at all. So I have a little Neocaridina tank down here. Sorry if I hit the microphone. I have a little tank up in the windowsill there. They have shrimp in them, but guys, they don't perform the way I want my tanks to perform. So I'm going to go down to a certain size of tank from now on. I'm going to gradually, these ones like this, I'll keep these ones, these big ones. Well, these are 150, 180 litres or something. I have 3 of them this size, this exact same size. So they will be kept. I think I'm going to do away with the big tank up here on the top, because it's just too hard for me to manage. When I want to change stuff in my tanks, little tanks are easier to make these changes in as well. And yeah, that is the way I'm going to go with my tanks. Less water changes because I see that it works. Do away with the bigger tanks, or the big tank. And yeah, that is how my shrimp room is right now. I'm sorry if I bored the pants off you by doing a video like this, but yeah, I wanted to do a video where I just spilled the beans, poured my heart out to you guys, told you where I was in my life right now. We have very exciting things coming in the very near future. Shrimp are breeding, website, Facebook is doing good. So that is basically it. Now before we go, guys, I'm going to go around the tanks and I'm going to show you the tanks just briefly. Right, and in the future, once I start to come, once I'm very happy that my website is doing really well, because it's at that point where it's sandboxed still. So the views are not great. I do get a lot of views, don't get me wrong, I get a lot of views because of the social media thing. Like if I share, I get thousands of views on certain posts and whatever. But for Google itself, my website is still sandboxed. Now, what that means is Google isn't promoting it, but my own promotion has made sure that it gets thousands and thousands of views over and over. Right? For example, right, if you don't know about websites and stuff, what I mean by that, right? My website is 5 months old. I've had something like 30,000 views on it already, and Google's not even started to promote me yet. So, can you see what I mean, guys, when I'm saying I want to go down this path of me doing my own blog, my own website, controlling my own videos, what I put on it, and all the content and stuff, because then it belongs to me. YouTube is my channel, but it doesn't belong to me. It's the same with Facebook. My Facebook group, I'm the owner technically of the Facebook group, but I don't own it. Right? And by the way, if you didn't know this, if you have a group, you can't technically sell it because it's not technically yours. You created the group, but it still belongs to Facebook. So this is what's important, guys, in life, is when you do stuff like this, you diversify your efforts, so that if something ever happens, for example, just say I somehow get banned off Facebook, I still have YouTube, I still have my blog. So there's my connections to the shrimp keeping world. Because again, guys, I know I keep on going off on tangents, but the reason I do the stuff that I do is because I want to help you guys. I want to help you learn how to keep shrimp. Right? I know about all the pains and the actual how bad it can be when you lose shrimp, and because they're little animals, they're living little creatures that you want to try and give them the best life and help them breed and whatever else. I mean, I get probably the most enjoyment ever when I see baby shrimp and they survive. To me, that is my job done right there. So that's the job that I want to help you guys do as well. God damn it, I don't have blether. What's that, 30 minutes almost? Oh my God. Right, so I'm going to lift up the camera. Let's quickly go over the tanks and then leave a comment if you've enjoyed today's video. Let's do this. So this is my shrimp room. This is some of it. We're going to start on the rack behind me and just work our way quickly through our tanks. Let's have a little look at the Opae Ula tank. It's doing really good. I think we might be at that point where there's not going to be any more Opae Ula in this tank. You can see them all there in the feeding bowl. And I'm considering doing a water change in here to see if it improves things a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of shrimp in here, but I see some YouTube videos where there's like bazillions of shrimp in a tank like this. And guys, and what I mean by doing a water change, look at the size of this buried girl there, look at her. What I mean by doing water changes is I've never done a water change in this tank for literally years. Let me see, I think I wrote it down here. You see it, 14th of the 8th, 21. So it's a couple of years since I did a water change in this tank. And yeah, I've always been told that you don't need to do water changes in an Opae Ula tank, but maybe there becomes a time when you do need to do a water change. Maybe they, like in the wild, for example, they have rainwater comes in. I do that. I have reverse osmosis water that comes in here, so that's probably not the issue. But imagine every like storm or high tide or whatever, there'd be the influx of some fresh water into the tank. So yeah, that is possibly something I will do. On to the next tank. We did, this used to be the Blue Dream one. I think I probably talked about this a little bit before. This is just, there's nothing in this tank. It's still been set up. You can see it's mostly Java moss, big thick bed of substrate here. I have ADA Amazonia, about a litre in the bottom, because I am aware that Akadama is a little bit nutrient deficient. Big double sponge filter in the middle, and we have loads of Java moss growing here. This tank is probably ready for shrimp, but yeah, I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush. I want to make sure my tanks are perfect before I add shrimp. So let's go into the next tank. This was a newer tank as well, but this one has actually been marked for a redo already because I'm not happy about the performance of the shrimp breeding in here. And I'm going to tell you why as well, guys, right? I tried a thin soil in here and it seems to be fine, but I'm seeing no babies at all. You see all the shrimp on the filter here, and there's been countless adults being buried in this tank, and I'm not seeing any babies. So this is one of the tanks that probably has just a tad too much hornwort in it. You're going to see what I'm talking about, guys, with this biofilm thing in a minute, because I've started to reduce the amount of plants in some of my tanks, and I'm getting a lot of biofilm, and those tanks just happen to have a lot of baby shrimp. So this tank is going to be redone. I've decided already this one's going to be redone. We're going to put a thicker soil base in here, less plants, more biofilm. And this one's just same thing again. There's no shrimp in this tank. This is one that was redone. It has a base of ADA Amazonia. You see the theme I'm going with here. Base of ADA Amazonia. We have Akadama on top. Again, there's probably just a wee bit too much plants in here, but this is just to help it cycle because this is a newer tank. This one was set up exactly the same. Thin base of ADA Amazonia, then a thicker layer of Akadama. This one has no plants at all, but you can see the absolute mess with this really light fluffy type algae that's on here, right? So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to add a couple of shrimp to this quite soon. This tank has been set up for about 3 months. So it's probably way overdue for shrimp to go in it. But I wanted to see if there was going to be more this biofilm build-up on the side, and I think the algae is just out competing it right now. So it's going to be changed. This tank has been set up for a while, a couple of months. The female died in here, but before she died she had a batch of babies, so we do have a couple of red Galaxy Pintos in here. There's quite a few of them. There's maybe 5 or 6, and there's the adult male is still in here. So we're probably going to be able to rebuild our colony for this tank. But again, guys, you can see on the bottom that we have a very thin layer of substrate in here, which I'm not happy about. Look how good that hornwort is growing at the back, though. I've noticed hornwort really likes nice water. This one is marked for red, which means a redo is due soon. So the shrimp in this tank will probably just go into that tank there. Oh, my legs, my back. So this is going to be the first tank that you see here that has this change in it that we were talking about before. And that is, if you can just see it, you maybe can make it out. Probably if you look back at one of my videos from, I don't know, last week, and you looked at this tank, guys, you see it was just absolutely cram-packed full of plants. But I decided there and then to remove the plants in the tank, well, at least most of them, And yeah, this is starting to get a nice biofilm build up. Do excuse the glare with all the shrimp in the corner. And I do see baby shrimp on the glass on that biofilm as well. You'll see this in better detail once we look at some of the other tanks. This is the, I'm going to just start to call it a mixed Skittles tank probably, because that's what it is. There's tons and tons, there's thousands of shrimp in this tank now. Thousands. If I'll go like this so you can see, but I'm not sure how well the GoPro will focus. They're just everywhere. Everywhere you look in the tank there's shrimp. It is by far my most successful shrimp tank ever. And I do notice a lot of the Ancestris are starting to get big. Let's see, can we not see any of the bigger ones? Bigger, smaller ones? I can't see. There's tons and tons of babies, but they are everywhere. Look at them. Everywhere you look there's shrimp and little fish. This was a tank I've recently redone because I'm not happy about the reproduction rate of my crystals. You can see here, guys, right in this tank there's probably about 30 crystal red shrimp. And it was probably, maybe, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, I had tons of buried female shrimp. I still do now. So this is what I'm saying, guys, is they've had their babies and the survival rate was pathetic. So I've decided to take out half to all the plants in the tank, half to all. How bad was that? I've decided to take out a majority of the plants in the tank to try and give the biofilm a bit more of a chance of growing on the sides, because you can see here, look at the glass here. I've not cleaned this glass for months and look how clean it is. So maybe I'm doing a little bit too much in my tanks, or I know I am, because you're going to see the results of me not doing too much in a minute. This tank has the offspring from our, what would you call it? There's a nice little galaxy, Pinto. Some of them are galaxies, some of them are not. This was our crossbreeding project, remember, that never really worked out well. Yeah, we did get some red ones over here in the other tank, so this tank is probably due for a reset soon. This tank here is nothing in it because it was reset. This was the one that had the fancy black crystal reds. Fancy black crystals in here. This little tank here will be redone, or what would you call it? Taken away. I'm not going to keep this little tank anymore. I don't know what it is. The little tanks just are very, very, what would you call it? You can have a lot of shrimp in them, but then they just disappear overnight kind of thing because they're so unstable. I'm not a fan of tiny little tanks, that's what it is, guys. Let me see, how are you doing, Crayfish? It's a boy crayfish here. These are Australian red claws. They recently got an upgrade in the air pump. I've decided to go with 2 air pumps. So I have like 120 litres a minute going through my tanks in the shrimp room, and I have probably, I don't know, 25 tanks, something like that. But I like more air than less air in my tanks like this. Right, and guys, you'll see this is quite full of plants and whatever else. Anywhere else where I take plants out of, go into this tank, because these Australian red claws, they eat anything basically. Any plant I put in here, they'll just munch through it. Even all the hornwort, duckweed, anything, they'll munch all the way through it. Let's look over here. Looking good, little tub. Look at all the shrimp down there in the bottom. I just put food in maybe about 40 minutes before I switched on the camera. Let's go to these tanks here. I'm considering whether I should redo, and not use this tank anymore, but it's quite a nice little tank, you know, I think. But I want to move to a generic size tank. These are, I can actually see some blue dreams in here, but there's crystal cherry shrimp in this tank. These guys had babies not so long ago, but they're very, very hard to see. Very, very, very hard to see. The big tank is just empty. It actually looks nice, doesn't it? And it's odd to see that there's nothing in here. So this tank is going to be completely torn down. I'm going to give up on it. All this soil is going to be taken away. And then that is it for this tank. You'll see, guys, there's a reason for all this as well. If you'll see, I don't want to say too much. Fancy crystal reds. Doing good. They had a lot of babies quite recently as well. Tank is really overgrown. We have our super crystal reds on this side. They were moved to this tank about 3 weeks ago. They've had their first batch of babies. And this is a good example to show you guys of the thing I was talking about before, where you reduce your water changes, reduce the plants amount by a lot. Like this tank over here, it needs its plants removed by a lot. I did that in this tank. Look at the sides. Absolutely crawling with life. Look how active the shrimp are. Can you see all the biofilm on the glass in the front? So there is a method to the madness that we're talking about here. This tank was a reset as well. This tank is probably due for the shrimp to go in it. It's been at least 3 months since I redid this one. It's got a little bit of string algae in the middle there, but it is dying away. Again, this is a tank that has too much plants in it. This was my Tangerine Tiger tank. I'm saying was because it was redone 3 days ago. Again, it looks like it has too much plants, but at the back there, there's no plants, you see it? And it is actually a bare bottom tank, guys, because I want to try and see if we can improve our breeding rate with these Tangerine Tigers if we keep the tank a little bit cleaner, like this. Because yeah, I was getting a lot of buried girls in here, never seen the young. When I changed this tank out, there was no babies. So I think I need to keep the tank just a little bit cleaner than I was. The tank was filthy, by the way. When I removed all the stuff inside, it stunk. Had a horrible soily texture to the gravel, which, I mean, it didn't even have soil in it, but it felt like it was mud in the tank. So yeah, it was needing a change. And then we're going to go on to our last 2 tanks to show you in this video here. And these are Asian style filters in the back. As remember we were saying about minimal water changes. Well, the fancy crystal blacks that I had, only 2 survived, right? From the previous tank. And they've had babies already in here. Luckily for me, they've had babies already. So if you have a really good eye, see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the adult. Shrimp over here as well. So I'm so pleased with this tank, but if you can see from like any angle, if it's visible even, look how much biofilm is on the glass. Minimal water changes. This probably has too much plants in it. But the tank right next to it is a carbon copy of the same thing. Look at the baby shrimp on the glass. There's shrimp everywhere in this tank. Look at them. You see them? I'm going to lower you and hold still and point to some baby shrimp. You probably see them. There, 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 there. These are ones that are actually on the glass, on the leaf. So the way that we're doing it now is definitely working. Less water changes. Let the soil, let the glass cover up a little bit with biofilm goodness. Because guys, some of you might know this, not know this, right? But an important thing for shrimp is getting a source of chitin or chitin, whatever way you want to say it. And a good source of chitin is actually biofilm. So that's probably why biofilm in a tank is so important to shrimp, because they actually need it. Because it makes up their shell. Chitin and calcium is what makes up a shrimp shell. Look at all these babies here, look. 1, 2, 3, 4, I just see them swimming around. And guys, I'm going to say this as well. If you want to go back and look at my friend Petter's a video that I did in his house a long time ago. Remember the tanks I showed you in his house? Right, how some of them you couldn't even see in the tanks because the glass was so covered in biofilm and algae. Remember? You want to go back and have a look? I think this is what it is. He didn't tell me that. I think I asked him. But I think this is what it is. Is that I think he was doing less water changes. So maybe nitrites were building up a tiny bit and you're getting a ton of algae. So there you have it, guys. That's our video for today. So what we covered: do less water changes, because they're not. Some people will say different things. Less plants, less water changes means more biofilm, which means more baby shrimp. Right, I hope my friend Peter's not watching this, because I've said he lied to me on video about his water change regime. By the way, Peter, I get it as well, because I've been very lazy with my water changes, and hey presto, more biofilm, more babies. There you go, that's the name of a t-shirt: more biofilm, more babies. Guys, if you've enjoyed today's show, then please leave a like and comment in the comment section below if you've agreed or disagreed with anything I've said in the video today. Even if it's been boring, tell me. If it's not been boring, tell me. Right, and I'll see you all in the next one. Happy shrimp keeping.